in this day and age, it's more than just mileage. And I think it's something we need to talk about. Well, I'm here in Hillsdale, Illinois. The truck is filthy, and there's snow everywhere. And but on the bright note, this is probably some of the best pizza you can get anywhere. As I'm over here waiting for a meat load out of Joslin, Illinois, because that's what my life consists of some days, it got me thinking about, the logistics of this business, and how the old way of thinking, when it just came strictly into mileage, is kind of an outdated thing in an owner-operator sense, and in a company sense too. As a company driver, you really don't have a whole lot of choice in a lot of cases, but I'm going to explain something that I've kind of been studying on and looking at over the last few years, and you'll see what I mean. That with the E-Log, it's more about time. So in this day of E-Log, a lot of people are still stuck in the old way of thinking that it's all about mileage. And in a way it is. Mileage is important. You don't want to go too far out of route, but how far is too far? It's more about time, and if you watched my other videos, you'll know that I talk a lot about time management. Time management is very, very important in this business. But it's important for other reasons. Back in the old days, when you would do a load, mileage was very important, because the shorter the miles, the less time, and you could pretty much add everything up in your logbook on a rolling average. And you could shorten it up, but as long as you kept it within a certain parameter, nobody really bothered you. If you had an average of a speed limit of 65 and you averaged it at 62 or 63, you'd come out perfect about every time. But in today, with the E-Log, it's all about time. And the shortest routes are not the fastest. And this is something that I've had to explain to a lot of people that they're just not getting. So, what are they not getting? That's been the big question. And what they're not getting is that less miles does not equal less time. It never has, but when we had a little more control over our time, we could make this stuff pair up really well. Well, due to incredible government micromanagement, we don't have that much of a luxury of time management like we used to. You have to take it in a different direction. So, what I've been trying to figure out the last couple of years is the fastest ways time-wise. And most of the time, the fastest way time-wise is not the fastest way or it's not the shortest way. And it's not even the practical way sometimes. We are stuck in an age of electronics to where people are relying on their GPSs to take them the path of the least resistance. But usually it has them sticking to the main roads, to the interstates, and if they get more than half a click off the interstate, they lose their mind, or they look for a ditch to drive into, or a bridge to hit. But that's another fun story. But I digress. You have to figure out a way to combine the two and find a happy medium, and we're really not doing that right now. Part of the problem with what's going on out here when it comes to picking and choosing your route and figuring your fuel and all that, and your bare basic general routing, is that people aren't checking their work. Technology's gotten to the point where people are more apt to just follow the GPS. They don't double check it. They don't Google Earth it to make sure things are all right. They don't have a backup plan. They don't read their map. They put their trust in technology. And that technology bites them every single time. If you don't check your work, you're going to go the longest way. You're going to go whichever way the routing takes you. And depending on how you have your routing, whether you have it on the shortest time, shortest distance, or most practical route, it's going to go that way. If you have something off or something is slightly off with your routing, it'll put you 50, 60 miles out of route. It'll have you turning left instead of right. I have had the GPS take me 15 miles around to go a block over. It's only as smart as the guy that programmed it. And technology, in a way, has kind of made people stupid. Well, maybe not stupid. It's made them lazy. They put their faith in the technology instead of trusting their instincts and checking their work. And this is an important thing to do. Always check your work. If you sit there and you check your work, eventually you're going to start noticing patterns in your run and things like that. And you're going to start figuring out how to map the most successful course for what you need to do. Time is money. And if you're piling on extra miles, it's causing you more time. Not always, but you need to figure out the most efficient use of your time. And that's kind of what I'm getting at. That's why you need to have a plan and you need to know what you're doing, because technology is not really helpful in cases like this. Like I said, have a plan, understand your time, and I guarantee you it's going to reflect in your work, and after a while you're going to start developing a little bit of skill in this area, and it's really going to become beneficial because with you checking your work, you're going to be a step up from the people around you because they're not. The people that don't check their work, they're the ones hitting bridges. They're the ones getting stuck in cul-de-sacs. They're the ones going the wrong way down roads. They trusted the GPS. I deliver in a place in Jackson, Mississippi. The GPS tells me to go left or to go right. I can see it to the left. But it will take me all the way back out to the interstate, turn me around, and bring me back. It's 3/8 of a mile this way, and it's 7 miles that way. You need to check your work. I'll give you an example. One of the ways I come out of South Dakota off I-29 and I go down to Memphis, the GPS will always have you going down to I-70 or US 36, straight due east over to St. Louis, more or less, and straight down I-55. You can go that way. I found it's about 75 miles shorter to go all the way down to Harrisonville, and then basically go down through Springfield and take US 60, down through Arkansas, down through Jonesboro, and into Memphis. It's a very nice 4-lane almost the entire way, with the exception of about, I think it's like 40 miles in Arkansas and 26 miles in Missouri. But the 26 miles in Missouri, it's 3-lane and it alternates between passing lanes every 2.5 miles. So I mean, it's a very fast ride. So once you get into Arkansas, there's literally about 30 miles to where it's a 2-lane. It's a quick run. I do it all the time. But most people won't go that way because that's the way their GPS doesn't say go that way. So they're adding about an hour and a half onto their time. Time is money. And this is one of the cases where shortened miles equals quicker time. But a lot of people don't want to get back on the 2-lane back in the hills because they think it's slow and it terrifies them. But it's one of those cases where it's a little shorter. In retrospect, that's probably not the right word, but hey, whatever. There's coming out of Amarillo to Emporia, it's 443 miles. That's what you get paid. And if you take the way they want you to go, it's 443 miles. It'll take you 8.5 hours. Maybe even closer to 9. Go from Amarillo to Emporia that way. But if you go down the interstate, come out of Amarillo, hit I-35, go east to 30, or I-40 to 35 and go up, it's just right, almost dead even at 7 hours. But it's 484 miles. So what's what's the difference? You saved an hour and a half, and it was 40 miles longer. So, and you had a lot of good fueling and places to stop and things you needed to do along the way, rather than being stuck in every backwater town at every stoplight and stop and go and getting stuck behind people. But that's just me. Sometimes the longer way is the faster way. One of the reasons that there's a lot of routing done, especially as a company driver, and a lot of the bigger companies have specific routes that they require their drivers to take, is for fuel taxes. They want to pay the least amount of money for the fewest miles in the state. And so they really give maybe a 3 to 5% variance, and you have to get permission to change it because they already have the fuel tax figured up for the run. But if you're an owner-operator and you can, you're doing this all yourself, you have a little more leeway. Yeah, you're going to pay a little bit more in fuel tax per se, but you're going to make it up in time. It's just, like I said, just everything's changing, but the amount of time is what I'm talking about. You just need to have some proper trip planning and figure out the most efficient way to go from A to B. Because that's really what it's about. It's about efficiency. This is not about the shortest miles. This isn't about any of all that. This is just comes down to basic efficiency. One of the way these new guys have it over the old guys is the fact that while they're not being taught everything they need to be taught, they're not stuck in the past. And the lessons of the past are very important to remember. But times change and trucking is fluid. And if you're going to make it in this business, you have to be willing to change with the times. E-log has changed everything. It's changed it logistically. It's changed it time-wise. It's changed it monetarily. It's just changed everything. It had so many unintended consequences that I don't know if we'll ever overcome them, because as technology keeps going on, a lot of these things are getting better in the business, but there's a lot of things that are getting worse. And there's a lot of things that aren't getting repaired and fixed because people don't understand the full scope of the problem, or they're just trying to band-aid it. And that's kind of a problem with it. At the end of the day, it just comes down to this. You are the captain of your own ship. Yeah, you may be driving somebody else's truck, but your time is still your time, and it's up to you to do your job as efficiently as you can, because time is money. And if it's a few more miles to save a little bit of time, that's not a bad thing. Do your trip planning, dive a little deeper into it, and just do what you need to do to make your job the most efficient process you can. Because at the end of the day, you're the one holding the bag. So, I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Good luck out there. Be efficient, be safe. It's winter, and we'll see you next video.